Welcome to today's session with Coding Ninjas. Today we have Navdeep Sandhu sir with us. A little about our speaker. Sir holds a bachelor's degree in information and technology. He has previously worked with firms like Ernst and Young. He works tirelessly for student support and works closely with teaching assistants to enhance the student experience during their formative classes. So, in today's session, Sir will be talking about how to prepare for software interviews, and he'll be guiding us on how to take those interviews. So, welcome, sir. How are you today?
Fine, Mohd, and really fine. Looking forward to the webinar, to the session.
Right, sir. So, now we'd like you to take over the platform and interact with our students.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so as I can see on the YouTube as well, we have a live audience of around 10-12 people over there. And like one thing that I do before starting with any session, one thing that I do is I always ask the audience to ask as many questions as possible. And I always tell them that basically there are two things. First, like if you are listening intently to something, then obviously you'll come up with questions, right? So that's one thing that comes up. If you are asking question, that means you are listening intently, right? And the second thing is that if you ask questions, then you will be labeled as a fool by your peers for, let's suppose, for 5 minutes. But if you don't ask question, then you would be labeled as a fool for the lifetime. That doubt will remain with you for the lifetime, or till the time that you get it resolved by somebody else. Or like, don't let that doubt go with you after this webinar. Ask as many questions as possible, even if few things that I would not be the right person to answer them. For example, let's suppose if you are talking about cybersecurity, even if you have questions around that, like I would not be the right person to answer that. But I know a lot of people who are good with cybersecurity, who are working in those companies, and I can redirect them to you, right? And I'll share this LinkedIn profile. You can connect with them. You can ask that we got to know about you through Navdeep. He was taking a session, he told about you, and these are my questions, and they would be happy to answer. So ask as many questions, connect with as many people on LinkedIn, and explore as much as possible. These are the best years that you have. Okay, perfect. So
Right.
let me share my screen, right? And okay, and let me set up a small context. Okay. So we would obviously talk about how to prepare for the interviews, right? And with the preparation part, I have two things to prepare for. Or let's also talk about how we should ideally spend our 4 years. Like even if you are in first year or second year or third year, you can, even if you have not started so far, even if you have not done all the things that are needed to prepare for an interview, then also you can start now as well. Like I've seen people who have started in third year. I've seen people who in their sixth semester started to write hello world in any programming language, like in C++ or in Java, but now they are well placed in Amazon or Google or somewhere or the other. So there are plenty of examples, people starting as low as 10,000 per month, and now they are at 36 or 40 LPA within a span of 5 to 6 years. And so let's talk about how to prepare and all those things that we have to do, and how we can get into the league of those people. Okay, so now how to prepare. So basically, I would be talking about two things. I would be basically focusing on DSLGO, and I would be focusing on development, right? And with this, a small track as well. Like if you are ideally starting, or if you are in first year right now, then what should be the track that you should follow that would optimally utilize your 4 years. So first we should talk about first we should basically make sure that we start by learning data structures and algorithms, right? This is the foundation, right? And there are two reasons to it. One is that whatever you learn on data structures and algorithms, it will continually, and it will keep coming back. For example, I was going through operating system course a few days back because we are preparing operating systems course. So I came across scheduling algorithms, I came across memory allocation algorithms, and over there they were using either linked list or queue and all those things. And similarly, I went into DBMS. There also there was some tree structure, there was some file structure, like how to efficiently search on file where the records, where the database is stored. So for that there is a file structure called B plus tree. So all those things require you to know about data structures and algorithms. Their prerequisite is data structures and algorithms. So that's one thing. Other than that, it gives you the computational thinking. So with data structures and algorithms, I mean three things, right? I would not go into depth. I would basically more focus on your questions, like as many questions as you can put across. Then I would love to answer those questions more. I just want to set the context. I just want to give you a brief overview of which all things we should ideally work around. So data structures and algorithms. By data structures and algorithms, I mean that we should learn about maths for computer science specifically, and then we should learn about core constructs of programming, and then obviously data structures and algorithms that we all know, starting from arrays to graphs and all the algorithms, well-known algorithms that we know. So this is what I mean by data structures and algorithms course. This is the foundation course that I wanted to talk about. So this is something that you should do as quickly as possible. I'll talk about resources a little bit later, but this is something that we should do. Then comes the practice part, right? So after that we should do practice as much as possible, and there are three ways to practice things. One is to revise what we have already read, what we have already learned, revise all those things. Second way is become a teaching assistant. So for example, if you are a student at Coding Ninjas, and if you've done the data structures and algorithms course really well, then you can become a teaching assistant. And since the teacher has the best comprehension, so it would be one of the best ways to revise things that you have learned, right? Third, and probably the best way that I also like, is to solve new problems. So I would recommend that you focus on practicing and on solving new questions. Some of the well-known websites are like Hacker Earth, Hacker Rank, Code Chef, Code Forces, and we also have started a platform called Code Studio. So there you can go through all the data structures and algorithm problems which are frequently asked in interviews. So you should apply and try to solve them on your own, given that you have already solved some standard set of problems, right? But the best resource that I like is LeetCode, right? I recommend you this resource. One is it is widely regarded as the best interview preparation resource. Other than that, I think their community is really active, right? The community is really active. So that is one thing that really takes them well ahead in the competition, because on every Sunday there is a contest from 8 to 9:30, and at 10 a.m. when you will go to the discuss section, you would see 200, 300, 500 posts on each question, all the different solutions, all the different questions, all the different insights, all those interesting thoughts around those questions. So that is really good. People are helping, supporting each other, and the community is really active. So that is something really important. So after you have done this practice, I would recommend that you don't leave data structures and algorithms, because it becomes really important with respect to software development interviews. But I would recommend you to start development as well, right? Start dev. And obviously, for starting development, you have to start doing it with a course or a book or a YouTube channel. Somewhere or the other you have to start preparing for it, you have to start doing it, right? So there are lot of resources from where you can learn it. After you have learned it, then you should create a lot of practice projects around it, right? But by practice projects, I mean that you can connect with people, and you can create projects in a group, or you can create projects on your own. But those would be small projects, and it could be a clone of a LinkedIn. It could be a clone of Quora or Facebook. It could be some of bank management system or library management system. It could be anything. These practice projects should be as much as in the number, right? And these practice projects would help you get internships, right? And you would not be able to show some experience around that in your interviews, that like, because you are starting, you are probably in your pre-final year or just in your second year, so you would have to show them these are the projects that I've created. Then when you get into internship, at that point of time you get to know about real projects. By real projects I means when you are basically working on a huge data set, right? So like creating a clone of Amazon is a different thing, but working on the production servers of Amazon is a totally different experience, right? Creating something which will get uploaded and would be used by each and every person, each and every user of Amazon, is a totally different thing. So those are real projects that you will create, and based on your internship, your practice projects, your real projects, you have to search for the job, a full-time job. Either you will get PPO from your company where you are interning, or you would go for the full-time placement with some other company. It may happen that you do internship with some company. Let's suppose you are doing it with Coding Ninja, Sprinkler, Amazon, or Microsoft. Some of the other companies you are doing it with. Then you didn't like the atmosphere. You felt that I would not like to work here as a full-time job. So it could be a decision, and it varies from team to team, and probably you didn't like the team that you worked with. And let's suppose even if you got the PPO, you start exploring other opportunities. So that is something that you can do. So that's how I think you should ideally work on things, right? Now let's talk about the resources where basically you can prepare things, right? Obviously, if you talk about paid resources, I think Coding Ninjas is the best resource where you can learn things. But let's talk about unpaid resources as well. Because with paid resources, I feel so confident with Coding Ninjas, because we not only have one stop solution, one place where we have recorded everything, and it's a good platform where we teach everything, right? Okay, so let me quickly take an opportunity to talk about Coding Ninjas as well. So like, if you want to explore any course, you can go to the website, and let's suppose we are talking about over here about two things. One is DSLGO, and another is development. So you can go over here. Let's suppose I want to do with Java foundation with data structures and algorithms. So you can go over here. You can try it for free. I think out of 30 lectures, first 3 or 5 lectures are available for people for free. And we also give TA support, the doubt support, the teaching assistants are available. You will get those resources as well. And all those things, you will get certificates, and all those things you will get to know. Similarly, you can talk about the full stack development as course as well, right? So that's one thing. Other than that, if you let's talk about unpaid resources as well. So I think for mathematics, we talked about mathematics over here, right? So we talked about mathematics. So if I talk about mathematics, then the best resource would be projectular.com, right? So projectular.net, right? Okay, so projectular.net has these archives where it has 744 questions right now, and these questions are specifically based on maths for computer science, and these are really great questions, right? That's one resource. If I talk about core constructs and data structures and algorithms, I would say Code Monk of Hacker Earth is a great resource to start practicing on things, right? Then if I talk about practicing things, so if you want to practice things, then with the unpaid resources, one is obviously leadcode.com, and other is the codestudio.com that we have. So we have this codingninjas.com/code studio. Over here also you have problem lists, and you have interview problems. And the good thing is you have interview experiences as well, and as well as you have resources as well. So and these resources basically try to help you with all possible questions that you might have. For example, let's suppose I want to talk about how to practice data structures and algorithms. I've done the course. Now how to practice it? So Parik has created this small video of 10-12 minutes, and it is like really good, and it's basically really it has summarized version of all those insights, right? So all those questions are answered, and very briefly, and like the best advice that we can give, right? that has been added over here. Okay, so that's one place. Other than this, let's talk about development. So if you talk about learning development, I already talked about one is this full stack development course. Other than that, if I talk about unpaid resources, then I like freecodecamp.org. In terms of unpaid resources, you can get started. It's free and you have a track, you can follow that as well. Then coming to the best part that I like is practice projects. So if you want to talk about practice projects, I would recommend to go to codementor.io, right? And over here, you can go to dev projects, and over here, uh, you can basically see some projects. For example, building a custom Google Maps theme, image search gallery, and like downtime monitoring with the reporting and alerts, and all this. Let's take this image search gallery, right? So this is one of the projects. So what you will practice is given over here. Introduction and the description of the question is given over here. References are also given over here. Then you can start project, and then if you go down, okay, let's go above. So there is a discussion bar as well. If you talk about discussion, people have given some comments over here. But the best thing that I like about this is solutions. People create projects and then they add their solutions. So we have 6 solutions over here. So you can go through their solutions as well, right? So that's one place, and I think 88 developers have already started working on this project. So you can see their insight, you can go through what they have learned as well, right? So these are few resources that I wanted to talk about. Okay, so I think this would be one way if you basically want to prepare for software development interviews, right? I think now we can talk about the questions. I think I have set the context now. So I'm stopped.
Yeah, sir.
I'm stopping the sharing of the screen.
Right, sir. So we have a few questions from the chat, and I myself do have some questions. So we'll first start with a few questions from the chat.
Sure.
Uh, Sejal is asking, which programming language do you recommend to start with?
Okay, okay. So for the programming language part, I have a small anecdote which I always share. So when I started my college, then my dean inducted us, and like he gave a small session, and he was an old man, and basically he said that I did my graduation way back in 1980s, 1975, and I was from the Regional Engineering College, Kurukshetra, which now has become NIT Kurukshetra. And he said that he used to have one book. The name of the book was Programming Methodologies, and it was the book had around 500 pages. He said the first 450 pages were only talking about constructs of a programming language. Like for example, arrays and its memory implementation. Arrays is something which comes later on. First it will start what are variables, what are few things that are there in a programming language, conditional loops, functions, operators, and all those things. Then it will go into basic data structures, arrays, strings, 2D arrays. Then it will move into how that function call stack works, and then probably it will go into recursion, and then all those things. So he said that first 500 pages were about that only, and then first 450 pages were about them only, and then in the last 50 pages he said that we had around 14 or 13 or 12 programming language, and it was something like that. That was an appendix. Appendix A, let's suppose for example, had Java. So it said that if you want to implement operators in Java, then this is the syntax. If you want to write loops, this is the syntax. And in those 50 pages, he said that there were around 11 or 12 programming languages. And so he said that this is the reputation of a programming language. This is the relevance of a programming language. It's not important to stick to a programming language. Like each programming language has its own pros and cons. You should focus on understanding the basics. So he said that, for example, if the subject is data structures and algorithms, it doesn't matter if I know if I'm doing it in C++. Someday if I want to solve a question of stacks in Python as well, let's suppose if there is a competition which doesn't support C++ and it is supporting Python, and if I have to do that, I can still do that. I can still go and Google small things, and I
Right,
can
right.
still solve the problems. The most important thing is I understand what stacks are. And similarly, he said that if you are learning web development, it doesn't matter whether you are doing on Ruby on Rails or you are using Node.js or Flask or Django. It's about that subject. That subject has to be given most priority. And the like only want to add one more thing in it. Like if you want to choose a particular language as well, see your use case. For example, let's suppose if you know that I want to go and work in data science or machine learning, or even if I'm working on development, I would be using Django. So you would say that Python is the best choice. Like it's a framework of Python. Django is a framework of Python, and data science and machine learning, all those things become very easy with Python. So doing DSL go with Python also. And if you want to do development, and if you want to quickly move on to development, if you're not interested in data structures and algorithms that much, then probably knowing a bit about DSL go and solving problems of DSL go with JavaScript would basically help you much more, because you don't want to get into deep of DSL go. You just want to learn it superficially. At the end you have to work with JavaScript functions. So you can learn DSL Go with JavaScript. Free Code Camp has their track in JavaScript. And if you want to learn the core constructs of DSL Go and how pointers and memory allocation happens, then Python and JavaScript would not be the best choice, because they automatically do those things. You are not allowed to work with pointers over there. Then you should take C or C++. uh, Java should be preferred for its own reason. So it should be your, uh, it should depend on you what you want to do.
Right.
If you don't have any reasons, then go with any language. It doesn't matter. Uh, Go with any language. I
Got it.
hope I answered.
All right. Yeah. So okay. So next question I had was, you mentioned in the practice section, you should do Lead Code, Code Studio. So there are a lot of platforms, right, sir? And from an interview point of view, let's say somebody is a five-star code chef or five-star on Hacker Rank. Does it make a difference? And if so, which platform matters more than the other?
Okay, so like it used to happen, we an interviewer or a recruiter used to like if he is hiring for a backend developer, he used to keep higher credibility for CodeChef or Codeforces in terms of other platforms like HackerRank or HackerEarth or Code Studio or LeetCode. So there used to be a higher respect for these platforms, but slowly and steadily, what is happening is people have started forming groups. And let's suppose I, Amod, Harshit, like we three are in a group, and let's suppose Amod is able to solve a question in C. Then what I'll do is I'll quickly convert it into Java and I'll submit it. uh,
Oh, okay.
this kind of cheating is happening a lot. And now like a lot of people were able to become 5 star or 6 star because they have 10 days to solve 10 problems. There is a long challenge over there, so they get a lot of time. They even pay to good developers so that they can get to 6 star or 5 star. So all those things were happening, and CodeChef of course is trying its best, but still it is not able to track them down. It's not able to solve it, because how will I find, like I can write plagiarism checker, but something which is written in C and in Java, how can
Java, definitely.
so that cannot be done on scale. So that credibility has reduced. That importance which was given earlier, 5 star coder on CodeChef or 6 star coder, star coder on CodeChef or Codeforces, used to be weighted really high, but it's not right now. Now each and every interviewer, what it does is he gives two coding questions, and if you are able to solve it, for me you are 6 star coder. If you're not able to do that, then it will see what are your approaches. Like it's not that I would be able to solve all the problems, but somebody who is really good at data structures and algorithms, his approaches would be more cleaner. They would be much more like, those approaches would differentiate. If I'm able to come up with
Right.
such approaches which can define that I'm little different. It comes out. Interviewer is able to understand like how good this person is. So practice is the only thing. Right now, these things and these batches don't matter. So now you can practice on lead code or any other thing. It is how you perform on that day. So,
Right. Okay.
and one
So
thing that I would like to answer that is like you were asking, like given that practice is the only thing that is left right now, those batches don't matter. So now we have to only focus on getting better at data structures and algorithms. And with that, I would recommend that now each and every platform is going towards education section. So you would see that CodeChef is also tying up with an academy. It's trying to teach and making sure that it's like its audience, its community is really good with data structures and algorithms, and they can give reason for whatever code that they have written. And Code Forces also started something around education, which I think they closed. But then Lead Code again is started giving video editorials to its paid users. I still feel that community of lead code is really good, and similarly, the community is active. And if like lead code, I feel is the best resource to talk about. So lead code, I would recommend if you are talking about practicing.
okay. So Rakshit is asking, what are the topics in DSA which need to be covered in last minute prep during placements?
So I was going through LinkedIn, and somebody made a very valid point, and I agree with that point, and that kind of answers this question as well. It was that when you are given an interview to be a part of a company, it should not be like an exam. Like you are not trying to get admission in some school or college. You want to actually work with them. So it should not be like that should be a test of somebody's knowledge. It should be a test of somebody is aptitude and attitude, like whether that person is good enough to work with us or not. And it should not be based on like whether he knows this thing or not, whether he remembers this function or not, whether he like it should be a flowing conversation. We should judge that person based on like the judgment should be based on much better things. And like it should not happen that whether you have revised that thing on the last minute or not, whether I know about
Right.
those things or not, like whether I remember those things or not. It should not happen as that. Like if I have worked hard for 2 years, and if I am able to get to a level where very few coders can get. For example, I can count on my fingers people who are red on code forces. So if I'm
Right.
able to reach at that level, or if I have, or even if I'm like relatively good to the most of the audience, I am in the bracket of excellent or above average or good or very good. Let's suppose if I have ratings more than 2,000 on Code Chef, Lead Code, or Code Forces, then I am really good. So
Right.
then interviews should be structured in such a way that I should be able to clear them.
Right.
uh, like let's suppose there are only two things, two places, two requirements. They are hiring for two people. They need two resources for SDE, and let's suppose there are 20 applicants, and they are asking them like let's suppose the best people. Uh, uh, if it's only about aptitude, so those
Right.
people who are really good, they should be able to get inside. It should not be that let's suppose somebody Navdeep has revised things in the last minute, and like somebody who's working for 2 years, he has not revised things in the last minute. Then it's not that like one night fight should not be there. If I'm making one night fight and able to crack it, then it's just an exam. It's not an interview. Interview should be like somebody who has worked hard for 2 years, he should be able to clear it. Like it should be structured in such way. It should not be test of your how many things you can remember. Like it should not be that way.
Right.
So like uh,
Makes
till
sense.
now, till now there are a lot of loopholes in how interviews are taken, and we generally there are few people who wrote memorized 300 questions, a variety of 300 questions, and uh, like there are such interviews as well where people wrote, they memorize those questions and they get those questions in interview only. Let's suppose
Oh,
I
okay.
so I recently solved, let's suppose, trapping rainwater, and let's suppose Amog is interviewing me, and Amog will not ask those questions which he he would not ask questions from his day to day work. He will just before the interview will go to Geeks for Geeks and see, okay, these are the interview questions, okay, this I'm able to understand, its solution I'm able to understand, let's ask this question to the interview, and it will say that this is the question, it's called trapping rainwater, and can you solve it in order of n. Obviously I've solved it 2 3 days back. Now I would pretend as if I don't know the solution. I would say I will first give the brute force solution, and like I'll pretend, people pretend like and then obviously the interviewer will get impressed, and he would not be able to get that the fraud that is the interview is making, and that's how people get admissions to companies as well. So, if interviews are done in such a way that real life problems of software development are given, just to get the logic of that person, let's suppose there are a lot of questions that they generally come across every day. Let's suppose this is to be built. How do you think it should be built? And even if you want to do objective evaluation, for example, if somebody is applying for coding ninjas, probably there would be 100 or 110 applicants, but somebody who's applying for Amazon, like probably he would have to be contested with 10,000 participants. At that point of time you want to do objective evaluation, you cannot go and talk to each and everybody.
Right.
So even if you want to do objective evaluation, come up with good questions. Do not come with questions which can be easily Googled on Geeks for Geeks. So that's how things are. Somebody who has done the work, he should be able to crack things. There should not be any concept of last minute. But if still somebody wants to know what are the last minute notes, I think dynamic programming is something you can basically revise things. It's not that uh, there is one concept which is popularized by a person called UWI Tenpen. He's a competitive programmer, and what he does, Amod, is he says that like if you want to get good at coding competitions, if you want to crack those interview rounds, just do three things: solve, review, prepare your own library. You solve few questions, review them, understand what of the solution, why of the solution, how of the solution. If you are able to solve by yourself, then it's really good. You obviously know each and everything. But if you are viewing some other solution, you are not able to solve it, you are viewing some other solution, then understand that solution properly, review it properly, why he has done those things which he has done, what he has done, and how he implemented the solution. So you should understand each and everything, and then prepare your own library. By preparing your own
Right.
library means that learn, like take some things out of it. Like if I'm trying to solve a new question, I would obviously solve it from the previous patterns that I have built in my mind. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
able to solve it from the previous pattern, then I will solve it. If not, I'll learn a new pattern. So that's how mind works. So you should prepare your own library, store your code somewhere, either in a library or somewhere, because new questions are twisted or tweaked version of old questions only. Minor adjustments around that. Very rarely
Right.
we come across new questions. So while you are preparing during your college, you should prepare your own problem notebook. Each problem should be properly and thoroughly, like, it should be properly written. There should be what of the solution, why of the solution, how of the solution. Just before the interview, you should not go through some topic. You should go through those problems. You should go through your problem notebook. You should flip the pages of your problem notebook. That should be your last minute notes. Prepare your problem
Right.
notebook all the way along.
All right, sir. So we have one good question actually. How would you rate the importance of DSA as compared to developing technical skills from placement perspective?
Okay. Okay. Obviously,
This question
projects.
even I had,
So
because somebody
project
who's
is
going
the.
to apply in web dev would probably not be good at data structures, but
Mhm.
companies come and just look for data structures in the beginning
Huh.
interview calls.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, we are all trying to solve problems. For example, there would be a company matrix which is trying to solve this problem. It's a really interesting problem. Like, for example, you could be using a Nokia phone or a Samsung phone or an iPhone, any phone you could be using, but you are able to call to a person who probably would be using some other brand of the phone, right? Similarly, if I want to message someone, then I could be using WhatsApp, I could be using Signal, I could be using Telegram, I could be using anything. But I should be able to send it to anybody who is either using Telegram or WhatsApp or Signal. So this actually wants you to have really good skills of computer networks. Like somebody who wants to work on this project needs to have a very good hold on networks. Similarly, if you're trying to solve like are we are surrounded by these problems. The main objective is to solve problems, and in an interview the prime objective of the recruiter is to judge whether he is a good problem solver or not. Then they use data structures and algorithm to judge that. Generally, like ideally, what they should do is they should take the problem that they are solving right now, uh, remove all the fancy things around it, and ask bare bones problem. Like they should ask it mathematically, put it mathematically, and then then they should try to get to the user and try to find whether he's able to answer that mathematical problem or not, and whether he's able to come up with a optimal solution to that, some innovative solution to that or not. So that should be the prime objective if you are trying to check somebody who is a good problem solver or not. But what we do is we take some basically standard data structures and algorithms problem and we give it to somebody, and that's where the problem lies. Nobody like not everybody would be able to solve all the problems. Like if there is a very well defined solution to a problem, if I've not learned that well defined solution, I would not be able to solve it. People like somebody who made honey brew, he went to Google for an interview and they rejected him. He said that 90% of your engineer use the product that I created, and you are not letting me inside your company because I'm not able to invert a binary tree. So those kind of standard problems should not be asked. Like the problems should be given in such a
Job
way that job related, task related, real life problems. That's one problem because of which we able to feel we say that DS algo is different and development is different. Now that's the
yeah,
first part. Now development obviously is important uh, because they cannot judge somebody just based on 2 hours interview or 1 hour interview. They obviously should know what he has done past in the past. Somebody who has not built anything in the past would not be able to create something out of the blue in just 15 days or 10 days. Like he's really good, he's a really good problem solver, let me take him in the team. But if he doesn't know development, he would not be able to quickly learn development. It also has its own
right,
learning curve. So I should look into his projects also. And generally, there are two kinds of companies. One is the startups, which don't really have those big problems to solve, which only have implementations to do. So that look for people who are very good with development and they don't care about data structures and algorithms. Then there are those kind of companies who has a great set of resources, and they have people who are good with development, but they want people who are very good with uh, problem solving part. So
right.
like, but they also want them to have development skills as well. So projects is the most important thing. Like if you go to startups, they would basically focus on development, not on data structures. If you go to big tech companies, they obviously would want development because anything that you work on would be deployed to Amazon.in or .com or Microsoft.com. Obviously you have to implement things. On paper it would not work. So,
Right, right.
but it's basically 30/70, that kind of a reliance. If you are a fresher, they rely more on things like keep 70% on data structures and algorithms and 30 on its project, because they say that we have our own products which he has to understand. If he has learned previous products, that would not matter. He has to learn start afresh. He would have to start fresh.
Right, right.
So all those things are there, but slowly and steadily that development is given prime weightage. And I have seen people who have links to his projects. And if you are able to give your recruiter a link where he can quickly go and see your project live, then he is able to judge you, he's able to evaluate you really well. And I think after the first round of DSL Go, then it's all about your project only.
Right.
So I think that's a limitation with the interview process, and that's why we feel that these are two different things. But if we are able to manage DSL Go in such a way that first we have learned DSL Go, then we are only solving new questions. Like let's suppose I'm daily solving one question every day, so that I'm in touch with DSL Go, uh, so that I my knowledge doesn't become stale. If I go to interview, my knowledge is still fresh. I'm still in touch with DSL. I should solely focus on development, right? After a certain period of time, because that is how development is important. And DSL Go is important only because of the interview process. And like you should spend first 2-3 months to learn about the basics of DSL Go, and then you should keep practicing one question every day. That kind of a practice you should do so that you keep in touch with it. But development should be the only thing that you work on, and that's how it should be. So you are not combining both of them, right? But you basically are learning DSL Go as well, so that you have that bent of thinking as well, so that you are able to get to the second round of interviews. But once you are in second round of interviews, once you are in face-to-face interview, only your projects can help you sail through that company, even if it's a startup or even if it's a big tech company as well. I think projects is the most important thing. I've seen people like one of my friends who is in Amazon right now. He created website for ipu.ac.in. So we were in USIT, that was main campus of GJ's IPU. And like since it was the main campus, we were connected with VC and all those people. So in USIT, the engineering block of the university, it came a request that we want to refurnish the whole website. And then he, like, the group of 3-4 students were selected, and he was one of them. And because he created such a big website which has around website of university which has around 70-80 thousand people, the load is such high, like that project sailed him. He was not good with DSL Go, and even today, if I talk to him, he would say that projects is the most important thing, and DSL Go is something that you just learn to get that problem solving part. थोड़ा computational thinking के लिए, but the most important thing is your implementations. How many problems you have solved, how many things you have built.
Right.
So focus on projects. Focus on projects. Even if somebody is saying, let's suppose somebody is saying that you go through this DSL Go part, we don't want to be part of those companies, right? If even if it's a DSL Go question, it should be structured in a way that it's either mathematics or it's a real world problem. Like standard problems
Right.
को नहीं होना चाहिए, right? So that's how it should be. Projects पे पूरा focus होना
Okay,
चाहिए.
so one more question. Okay, so this question is by Shubham. Does Coding Ninja provide a crash course for placement?
So we have recently built it. So generally we avoid creating small courses. Like I came up with this idea and I floated it to the team. So I told them we should have some very small course on things like on, let's suppose, graphs, how to handle graphs or how to handle dynamic programming. Then they said that we don't want to create small courses without any value at the end. Like, let's suppose somebody has done dynamic programming only, then what ability would it have at the end, right? And or
Right.
let's suppose somebody who has done only graphs, somebody would have who has only done one topic. For example, even if we are talking about front end development, let's suppose I'm talking about promises. So if I specifically talk about one topic, somebody who has completed all the lectures, what would be the end goal of it? There would be no end goal. Like, I would not say that he's a champ at front end development. I would say he only knows one topic very well. So that's why we don't create such crash courses. We create that full track, full roadmap, so that it could give some value at the end. And then we can take that person and we can go to companies as well, that he has done our interview preparation course or he has done our full stack development course. So we can we can say that this is really good at this particular thing. So that's one thing. But what we have started is, right now we have seen two kinds of people. Like, one who needs handholding, who needs videos, and other is person who is able to do those things. If he gets a few hints, if he gets a few textual resources as well. Somebody who needs only questions, and who needs only like if I'm able to give him doubt support in terms of his doubts that comes, and if I able to give him a track to solve these problems, whenever you have any doubt, connect us. uh, then those people who don't need that kind of hand holding, so we wanted to cater to those people as well. So now we have started building such courses, which can be termed crash course. Not exactly crash course, but I would say that somebody who's doing a video course, full-fledged course, it will probably take 2-3 months for him. But somebody who's doing these courses, I think he can complete it more quickly. So that is one way where we are going right now. And we have collaborated with Naukri.com, and over there we are creating a practice and doubt support kind of a course for software development role and for data scientist role, where you would be only given questions. So that's the kind of crash courses that we are like. This is the only crash course that we are thinking right now. So.
Right, sir. All right, so we go to the next question. How
Mhm.
important is maintaining LinkedIn and GitHub profiles for college placements?
LinkedIn, one good thing I like learned about going through LinkedIn only is that LinkedIn is a different thing and resume is a different thing. For example, if I'm applying for Amazon.com, then I would create a different kind of profile, a different kind of resume, and send it to them. If I am applying for an engineering leader or a tech lead for some company or a product manager for some company, let's suppose the role is a little different, then I would create a different kind of resumes. Resumes have to be tailored for each and every role. But LinkedIn is a different thing. It's all in one. Right? You have to talk about your hobbies, your interests, and all those things. You can showcase over there. Like, your hobbies should be aligned with what you are actually in life. For example, if I am a programming instructor, then I should have my hobbies around either programming or either around teaching. So those kind of things. So it's a much more much like, it is a much wide thing. LinkedIn is a much wider thing, and you can connect with people also. So I think LinkedIn should have all those things. And
Right.
uh, I think LinkedIn. We don't have any video on LinkedIn. We created a video on how to create a good resume, but on LinkedIn, but there is a lot of things that you should do. Only one thing that I can remember right now. There are small things like have a background image and all those things. I'll not talk about them. But when you have done something, apply STAR method, which is situation. A situation, T is for task, A is for action, and R is for results or impact. So, like if you have gone through a company, you have done some internship with them, or you have been on a freelancing project, or you have been organizing something, or if you have been like anything that you have worked upon, like LinkedIn
Right.
should have everything. It should not be tailored for a particular role. It should have each and everything that you are doing. And over there, you should explain the situation. Then you should talk about the task that you had, what actions you took, and what impact it had. So LinkedIn, somebody who has read your LinkedIn should be able to understand what you did. So that's how things should be. With respect to GitHub profiles, like ideally you should have things like there should be two kinds of link in the resume. You have created something, you should show that this is where I've created my code, this is where I've kept my code is open sourced at this place, and this is a live link. This is where you can quickly click and you can go to the website or app. So everything should have two links. uh, so that's about it. Other than that, if you can popularize it, for example,
Right.
if let's suppose you have a repository which has 100, 200, 500 stars, people are regularly visiting it, then it
Right.
helps. It really helps. For example, somebody created a resource called School of SRE, where these software reliability engineering resources were there. So slowly and steadily, it will basically become a one-stop standard solution. But most importantly, if it's an application that you have created, and if you are able to get, or if you are able to connect with a lot of people, then your application would become bugless. People will start contributing. They'll make sure that it enriches. So if you're able to create such a community around yourself, like in a college, and then you are open sourcing it, then it becomes really helpful. Your code would
Right.
get features and would become bugless. So more people will
Okay.
contribute to it.
So, we'll take two last questions. One question
Sure.
I had: what are the
Mhm.
most common mistakes people make during interviews? As in, from application procedure to actually being there present in that interview. What are the most common mistakes they make?
Uh, One thing that I see people make is they are not able to communicate freely,
Right.
and even if they have created the project, even if they have contributed and made everything they know, start to end, they are not able to express that to the recruiter or the interviewer. And the people are not able to play or work or give the interview to their potential. Like they would say that if I would have at 100%, I would have cleared this interview, but I gave this interview at a 30%, 40%, or 20% of my potential. And one reason of that is because we become nervous, because we are not so good with our communication skills. We are not able to clearly explain what we have written. So that is one problem. Communication skills, which we generally feel that they are not that important. I would be able to do that, but communicating with a person is not so same as communicating with a machine. I'm able to get that product made, but explaining that to a person, what all problems I faced, it's a totally different skill. So that's one thing. Other than that, judging that company, like whether it would be the right place where I would want to work or not. Though it's a little harsh, but what is one thumb rule that I use is that if after the interview I'm not sharing a laugh with that person, with the interviewer, that means that person is not friendly to work with. And like it's important that you share that kind of a bond with person where like not too informal but not too formal as well. Like there should be there should be like an informal kind of a formal. And like for example, if somebody who takes feedback, like if your manager is a person who takes feedback, who listens to you, and who takes your opinion, then that place you would like to work. But if somebody is a person who says that I am a supervisor, I am your manager, and whatever I say you have to follow it, you have to follow the line, then that place is not a good place to work with. So that's
Right.
the other thing. People select a company just because they crack the interview, but after a while they realize that this is not the best place to work on. So it's not that only
Right.
they are judging you, you should also judge them, and make sure
Makes
that
sense.
you are in a place where it should be a livable place. And so
Mutually conducive.
yeah, you should connect with people who have recently left the company or who have currently working in that company on LinkedIn. You should try to get the feel of how this company is, by how the work culture is around this. So people don't generally work around
Right.
on those skills. One is communication skills, and they don't generally work on company aspect. They just make sure that I just want to get
They're
into this
getting
company.
placed. Right. Right.
So these are two things.
All right. So, one final question. What would be your final piece of advice to all our viewers here today? Assuming that they're all BTech students. So, what's your final one line or two lines of advice?
So I would say it's really important to study, and don't make sure that you are not ruining these 4 years, because these are your golden period of time. And what people would generally now say is, they after they get into the workforce, they leave their work and they again go for higher studies, and they say that I will get 2 years more, I'll study better, and then I'll get to good companies, I'll get to good work, right? So my only thing is, like, if we don't study, then we will, at the end of our 4 years, we will say that God, let us get into any company that we want. I just want to get into any company. Just let me have that job. But rather than that, think about the other perspective. Let's suppose somebody who has studied, and it's that person who would set the bar. He would say that I have this bar, and if you are not fulfilling this bar, then I would not work in your company. Like, so if you are a person who is working with somebody else, then you set your bar really high. uh, like, you would not work with anybody and everybody. I would need that certain level of company, I would need person with that much expertism, then only I would work, then only I would come. So that's how you give value to your time and to yourself. So study as much as possible. Computer networks, databases, operating system, computer architecture, these are as much as important as data structures and development. And we should study like 10 to 12 hours daily, right? If not, like, it should have a nice blend of theory and practice. And we should really study, we should connect with our professors as well as people who are in industry. We should have a nice blend of theory and practice. We should have some
Right.
research papers as well. We should work. That's one piece of advice. And it should be like, I'm not saying that don't go for dramatics. Don't go for cricket, badminton, music, debating society. I myself worked with badminton. I used to play like a lot of badminton. And every day my college used to start at 9, but I used to come at college at 6. Like 6 to 9, it used to be badminton court. So I'm not saying that, but like, try to have that mix, have that balance,
Right.
with that balance tilted towards your academics. So that's one final piece of advice that I would. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. So now we come to the end of our session with Coding Ninjas. We would like to thank Navdeep sir for taking time out of his busy schedule and interacting with our participants. Hope you guys like the session. And if you haven't already submitted your ideas, your final projects, the deadline is 4. Be sure to submit all your projects by 4 o'clock. Hope your hack is going well, and thank you once again.
Okay, Mo. Thank you.